This is All Code Podcast, and I'm Sena.
And I'm Sena.
And in this episode, we're having Corrin from TUJ's Career Development Office tell us about her, Sena.
Well, Corrin is amazing because she actually talks to students one-on-one. She gives as much advice as she can about everything related to careers. So when it comes to, job hunting, writing resumes, even doing interview practice. And she's just really knowledgeable when it comes to jobs. So I'm really excited to talk to her.
Let's get to know our staff more. Let's go.
Hello, Corrin.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm so glad you came on. Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and so I wanted to start off just by asking you a few questions about yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from? And maybe how did you come to Japan?
Sure. So I grew up in a military family. My dad was in the Air Force. And Japan, I only came because all of my friends who were stationed in Okinawa got a chance to go. And my dad, when I was ready to travel abroad, was like, nope, I'm staying in America. So I had FOMO since like 13. So when I found out I could live and work in Japan after college, I immediately applied for an account position. Came, loved it, stayed a year, and Japan never left. And so 10 years later, I've got another opportunity to come back and teach English, this time as a public school teacher, as an ALT, through the Phoenix Sister Cities program, which is where my dad retired and I kind of grew up off and on. And came back in 2019, had some good 4 months before COVID, and just stayed.
Oh, wow.
And ended up at TUJ last year.
Amazing. And how did you end up at TUJ? What led you here?
It's funny. So my journey into education was very unique. And I remember working at another company, and I saw TUJ had a booth at this conference I was at. And I went to this person. I was like, wow, you're not Japanese. How are you working in Japan, not teaching? And so she shared about different opportunities at TUJ. And this was back in 2015. And so it kind of always stuck in my head that, one day I would love to work there. And so when I came back right before COVID, and I decided, let me give Japan a shot. I'm going to stay and work here. I thought, okay, I'm only going to stay if I can get into my career field. So it was TUJ, a couple other schools here, and then some international schools. And I started at international school, realized I miss working with adult students, and through the power of networking and just kind of getting to know people and knowing staff at TUJ, I was alerted to my current position, applied, and got it.
Amazing. Wow. So good. And I know, you work in the Career Development Center, right? I know we haven't touched on that just yet, but what, did you know that was kind of like what you wanted to do, or was it always kind of like a zigzaggy path to getting to where you're at now?
Going into college, I thought I was going to be a doctor. First I wanted to be an astronaut. I'm not going to tell you how that dream died, but then I was like, okay, now I'm going to be a doctor, and I took Chem 101. I was like, not my path. I don't want to do all this math, science, don't want to be in school for the next 8 years. And so I hopped around different careers after college. Not recommending this to people, but I decided, between graduation and 25, I wanted to try every single industry I could possibly attempt just to figure out where I wanted to land. So I worked in hospitality, retail, nonprofit, for-profit, startup. And Japan was the first time, and I came in 2008, and I was teaching. I was like, education's not that bad. I don't know if I want to teach, but I do like this field. And so when I decided to go get my master's, I started to do a teaching program. And then I realized, nope, instead of pushing students on, I'd rather pull, because I was talking to my students who were not getting encouraged to apply for college because they had dyslexia, or they were reading at a lower grade level. And so I was like, I don't want to be the teacher encouraging and no one else is pushing them on. So I switched programs and ended up in higher education.
I see. Okay. And I'm curious because you said something which I think is quite interesting. You said that you don't recommend that students try to do, I guess, as many different things before the age of 25 or before whatever. Why is it that you don't recommend that?
Times have changed. When I graduated, it was a recession, or soon to be a really big recession, the Lehman shock. And so I kind of understood, because of all of outside circumstances going on, my resume looking a little sketchy with jumping jobs every couple of months or every year wouldn't be as bad because the market was bad.
I see, okay.
And so right now, with the growth of tech and all these cool opportunities, it would read more unstable if anyone were to do that now versus exploring, because the opportunities aren't there.
Do you think people could get away with, being like, COVID happened and that's why my... Not really, right? No.
Maybe it depends on the industry. In Japan, I think it's a little difficult because here it's still very formal. People start at their company, and it's generally they work there a couple years before moving on, versus like the US, it's kind of expected that people might jump around every 2 years.
Right.
So you kind of just have to read the market and then read the country you're in.
I see.
But I also am a fan of, you can try different things. You don't have to know exactly what you're going to do. There's a very few people who kind of knew at the two they were going to do what they're doing, and the rest of us are just kind of figuring out. So it's okay to change, but I wouldn't recommend changing as many times as I did.
Oh, I see. That's fair. So what would you recommend to somebody who, maybe like me, who, is still trying to figure out what they want to do, like, career-wise? They have no clue maybe they have a general gist of what they're interested in, but they're not quite sure yet specifically what it is that they want to pursue.
What's great about this age, so being in college for the 4 years, it's really exploratory. So I would recommend, one, first you have to know yourself. So you need to know your strengths, your weaknesses, what do you like, what do you don't like.
Right.
So you can do some assessments. I always say take it with a grain of salt. What you score is not who you are, it might be who you are at that moment. So you can learn, like the Clifton Strengths Finders test is really helpful because it will tell you like your top 5 strengths or top 3 strengths. And then
I've never heard of that.
Yes, it's a book and it's a survey. I did it through the book, that's how I got the free link.
Oh, I see.
And so like my top strengths were like communication, teamwork, innovation. I always forget the 4 and 5, but I was like, and so I started noticing the jobs that I also did a lot of career exploring, looking at just different job descriptions.
Right.
And I noticed the jobs I gravitated towards had similar characteristics.
I see.
So I was like, what are these characteristics? And then what industries will I be able to use these skills?
Mm-hmm.
And so then just kept taking tests that helped to narrow down. And then I tried also focusing and just getting to know myself more through my part-time jobs.
I see.
So I was a little bit strategic.
Okay.
Like I thought I wanted to work marketing, so I got a marketing part-time job.
Right.
I wanted to do more community relations, event planning, so I got that sort of part-time job, and then I did an internship.
I see.
And internships are great because you can try different things, and it won't look as bad if you have different internships on your resume because they really are exploratory job experiences.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And if I'm somebody who, let's say, wants to do an internship, which I am, by the way, I am looking for an internship right now. What would I have to do? Like, how could I kind of, like, I guess, maybe see somebody at the Career Development Center to kind of ask about that? Like, what does that look like?
So my first recommendation is that you speak with your academic advisor in the AAC and narrow down what you're, like, do like a pre-schedule. So what does the rest of your time at TUJ look like semester by semester? Mm-hmm. Then based off the classes that you're planning to take, where can you slide in an internship?
Right.
So you want to make sure like you're not taking like writing intensive or reading intensive courses because you're also working. Yeah. So you have to be strategic with how you select your classes or which semesters look light, and then throw in an internship. So once you have an idea of when you want to do your internship, then you come to us.
I see. Okay.
And the first step would be to do an information session. So we have those every semester. And you want to do an information session for the semester prior to the semester you actually want to intern in.
I see. Okay. You can't just show up and be like, hey, I want to do an internship right now. Can I do it?
No, because we want to make sure you are making an informed decision. I think what I've noticed is some students don't understand. They understand the word internship, but not what it entails.
I see.
It's not fake. Like, these are real companies, real positions. You're doing real work.
Yeah.
And so you want to make sure that you are in a right mindset to handle that work.
Yeah.
And also that you're doing work that is going to help you grow.
Right.
And so I'm always advising against doing an internship because your friend did it or because it sounds cool. Like, did you read the job description?
Right.
Or some companies have really cool names and they do really cool things, but the internship itself is not in that department.
Yeah,
you're not throwing the events. You're not handling the swag. You're not doing all that. You're doing...
You're like handing the coffee or something, right?
No. We actually, for companies who go through our office, that's one of the rules we have. Like, it has to be a meaningful experience.
Oh, really? So you actually check them and be like, don't make the students, give coffee. That's not okay.
So they do sign an agreement, and one of the clauses is, like, the administrative work shouldn't be more than 50%.
I see.
Now, if it's an administrative role, then that's different.
Yeah.
But we say the goal is not for the student to get coffee or to do the work no one else wants to do. It really is what's the learning component.
Right.
So they are working, but how are they developing? So at the end, you should say, I grew my communication skills, I grew my tech skills, I grew my teamwork skills, or I actually don't like this industry. So,
Right.
So I'm looking at this industry. And so we make sure for the companies that go through our office that they understand that we vet them, make sure that they are providing opportunities. And students give us feedback all the time.
Oh, good.
So if we find the company itself is great, but maybe like one of their roles isn't well suited, we'll talk with the company to try to fix it or change it, or we just don't offer it anymore.
I see. Oh, that's so cool. Because I feel like it's nice to know that TUJ, I guess, like, has our back in that sense, or at least that the Career Development Center has our back in that sense. Because, like, I feel like, going about finding an internship on your own can be so daunting. Like, there's just, like, thousands of different options out there, and you don't know, like, where to start. But in that case, like, if we come to see you and be like, okay, this is when we're thinking of taking the internship, but we just don't know where to go, you already have, like, a list of different options of places that students can go to, right?
So every semester, part of my role outside of being a career advisor is I manage the internship program.
Oh, cool.
And I just looked this morning, we have over 144 companies at some point during the year hire interns.
Oh, wow.
And so usually we get about 80 companies every semester who open up positions. And so there's over 100 positions. We don't have that many students applying every semester.
Yeah.
But at least there's lots of options.
Yeah.
And so what's great about going through, so you have two pathways to do an internship. You can find your own or you can apply through our office. But what's great about our office, like I said, we vet the companies.
Yeah. We
have lots of feedback if they've been established. So we can provide information to students like, oh, this is the type of work you might be doing, or this is, it sounds great, but you work hard, play hard. Are you willing to work hard, play hard, or do you want something more relaxed?
Right.
And then if the students are still here, we can connect them with previous interns.
Oh, cool.
Who can give them a better understanding, because we get feedback from some students and some of the companies, but I'm not working the job. I don't know the day-to-day. I don't know the office vibe.
Right.
So we try to, if students ask, I try to connect them so they, at the end of the day when they apply, they make a very informed decision that this is the company they want to try for. And then it's not guaranteed. So we are the vessel.
Right.
Like we provide the list, we help read resumes, do mock interviews, but at the end of the day, it's up to the students to land the role.
I see. Okay. That makes sense. I mean, because I feel like internships are always like, the first step to, trying to figure out all that stuff. But again, it's hard to make that first step if you don't even know like what direction to go in.
Yes.
So it's really nice to know that you guys have so much stuff like available. And I'm curious to know also, so let's say I'm a student who's already done an internship. I feel pretty comfortable now. I'm like, okay, you know what? I think I have a good sense of what kind of job I'm thinking of doing. Then what do you think would be the next step? How would I, go about, I guess, like, the job hunting process? And how early do you think I should come in to, I guess, start discussing that with you?
So ideally, we would love to get everyone as a freshman because we can just get to know you. So the more times we see you, the easier it is for us to kind of help you narrow down what path or what type of jobs you're looking for. If we get any cool leads, we can like send those off.
I see.
Like, oh, I have a student in mind, and then forward those directly to you.
I see.
Instead of, waiting for you to see it. So we do that, and we've had quite a few students who are able to land roles because of our, connect that way. So the first thing to think about for job hunting is, are you staying in Japan or not?
Right.
If you're staying in Japan and if we get you as a freshman, our advice is in your electives, take Japanese classes.
I see. Okay.
Because it's easier, you have more options if you get to N2 or N3, so conversational or business, then little to no Japanese, you're really limited.
Right.
And so if we can catch you early enough, you have enough time to
take
progress.
Those classes, right? Yeah.
If you're a student who did not take those lessons, then it just really comes down to how open are you?
I see.
With the options. So I always ask students, what's the ultimate end goal? Japan or landing a position in the industry you like?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because depending on your language, you might not be able to do both.
Right.
And so I don't want to discourage, I just want to paint a realistic picture. If Japan, you want to stay here because you like it here or you want to further develop your language, there's different options for you that way.
Right.
That you can keep developing your language, develop yourself, and then land your dream role.
Right.
If you want to land your dream role, then let's look at some options that are available, and I say cross-analysis. So do you match what they're looking for? Do you have these skill sets?
Right.
And most of the time, what usually knocks a student out is language.
I see.
So they can do it, but
they just don't have the language skills, right? Yeah, that makes sense. Would you say that it's more important to take language classes, or would you say that it's more important to actually have passed like one of the, the N3, N2, and 5, whatever?
It really depends. Some companies might require like proof of JLPT certification.
Right.
Other companies might be very general, like, oh, we want conversational. that's very broad.
Right.
So I always tell students, do you feel you're conversational? And they say yes. And I say, well, go for it. Because what they'll do in the interview is they'll assess you.
Yeah.
They'll start talking to you in Japanese.
Right.
And if you pass, then great. If not, then they say, oh, we're looking for someone a little bit stronger.
Right.
And now you know this is what they're looking for conversational.
I see.
And you can work on those skill sets. So I always tell students, don't knock yourself out of the running. Let the company tell you no.
Yeah, true.
Apply. The worst thing you get is, well, there's a couple worst things. They either never respond to your application, move on.
Yeah.
You get a no, you move on. Or you get the interview and you try and you realize your language is not there, then you move on.
Right.
But it's all growing. And so if they're looking for fluent and you're conversational, I'm like, okay, let's.
Yeah.
That might be a stretch. You can try.
Right.
But if they're saying conversational and you didn't take the N3, just see what happens.
Yeah.
Because we do have students who take N2 and 1, but they are really good at the test.
Right.
And so it's also on the reverse, not a guarantee, because you have N2, you have N1 that you're going to get the job, because they're still going to assess you in Japanese. And if
That's
they're
a good
like,
point, actually, yeah.
you say N2, but your Japanese is not there, then that can be a problem. So if you have that high distinction, it's very important that you keep up that level.
I see.
You don't want to disappoint.
That makes sense, because I feel like I can relate to that struggle, because I took the N2 several years ago, and I feel like my Japanese has probably improved since, and I probably could take the N1, but I know that if I probably were to take it right in this very moment, like, I wouldn't pass, just because I haven't studied Japanese, like, whatsoever. But I don't think that's, like, reflective of my Japanese level. Like, you know, I feel like it's probably good, but I feel like the test itself doesn't reflect, like, how, like, my Japanese speaking ability. I also am not good with tests, so I know for a fact, like, probably, you know, it would be super difficult to get super high scores. So yeah,
I think it's just easy for companies to put you know, like the SAT, like, not like, I wasn't a good SAT taker, so I bombed the test, but if you looked at my coursework, I was really good.
I see.
So I feel like the JLPT is easy for companies to say we want N2, because it makes sense to them, but not everyone that has N2 is at the level they're thinking of.
Right.
So it really is, you have to apply and just go and see what happens.
Right. And
see if you're up there.
Do you guys also do, like, interview, I think you mentioned it a little bit, right? You do those kind of, like, walkthrough in Japanese and in English as well?
Everything you need to possibly prepare for your life after TUJ, our office can provide.
Amazing.
So we do English and Japanese resume checks or entry sheets for Japanese. We do mock interviews in English and Japanese, and it's great. My colleagues will do, like, the whole formal, from, like, how you knock on the door, how you walk in, how you sit down. Like, they prepare students as much as possible, because that's all formality, versus an English interview is a little bit different. So we do that. We have a few seminars every semester on different things, like how to find a job in Japan, how to prepare for, like, Japanese shukatsu, how to job hunt as a foreigner. We're always adding on new sessions just based off the needs of the students. And then
what do those seminars look like? Oh, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but what do the seminars look like? Like, is that online, or is that, like, in
both? So we have some in person, we have some online. A lot of students prefer them online, so we're trying to bring it back to campus, but it's very hard. Everyone has a different schedule, so trying to create a time where most students are available. But we always say, if you're not available for the seminar, you can always make an appointment.
I see.
We can always, and I prefer meeting one-on-one, because I get to know students a little bit more, and personality and interest, and so it's easy for me to be like, okay, yes, what you're thinking matches who you say you are, who I feel you are, or I think what you want and how you operate are different, so you might struggle.
Right.
So it's having those conversations. It's easy for me to gauge that in person, but seminar appointment, drop-ins are a little difficult because we might be in meetings, but if you drop in and you have a quick question, we can help.
Okay, great.
But usually we try to get everyone to schedule an appointment so we can have that focused time on you.
I see.
And you can do 30 minutes, you can do an hour. I always say, if you're gonna do resume review, schedule an hour. You don't have to go the full hour, but at least we have it.
Yeah, right.
And we can walk through everything together. I also encourage, like, if they're doing resumes with me, to bring in whatever version you have, because it's easy for me to walk a student through how to fix it, how to make it stronger with something.
Right.
Or if they're, like, absolutely freshman, has nothing, we can build it together, and then I give it as homework
to
come back
That's nice.
and walk them through. So we are here to be a resource. We're not the end all be all. So you're not going to come to our office and we're going to land you a job right there, but we're here to help you prepare to be the best version of yourself to get that position.
That's awesome. That's great. I honestly, I myself wish that I went to the career development office like way sooner, because I feel like I waited. I mean, I'm I still have
It's not
time.
too late.
Yeah,
It's not too
exactly.
late.
And it's not too late, but I still felt like, oh man, if I had gone like first year, like I feel like I would have just really gotten all the steps and all the different things that you were talking about you offer. I'm also curious to know, by the way, one thing I want to dive into is like, do you also offer services for students who are interested in studying, or sorry, not studying, but working abroad? Like if there are students who are thinking maybe of working in the States, or maybe I don't know, places in Europe or China, that kind of stuff, do you guys also offer help for that kind of stuff as well?
So because we're an American institution, we're pretty well informed about Japan and the US. Outside of that, it's like we do what the students have to do, we research. So if a student makes an appointment, especially if they say, oh, I want to work in Singapore, if I get enough advanced timing, I will go and research if I don't know, and be like, this is what I found, what have you found, okay, what kind of companies? And I always ask students, did you check the visa?
Oh.
Because some countries, it's hard to get a working visa as a foreigner, because that country has to prove no one in that country can do that job.
Right.
You have such a high expertise that no one can do it but you.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of people would love to work in, the UK or Australia or New Zealand, but those are countries where you have to prove that
Right.
you have a specialty that they can't find. So I'm always like, it sounds great, but let's look at the process. And then once we understand the process, it's realistic, then start looking at jobs.
Right, that makes sense.
So
and if it's your home country, that kind of thing, then it's a little bit easier, right? Like if you're like, oh, I just want to go back to my own home country and work and stuff, you could still help with that kind of stuff.
Yes, and I'll say, what do you want to do? What companies have you looked at? And then we can research and show them how to navigate that in their home country. We also help with grad school.
Oh, okay, great.
So students want to go continue on. We talk about like the differences in undergrad and grad, especially funding. It's a little bit challenging as a grad school student.
Yeah.
What does it look like to study grad school in the US versus the UK and other systems? And then the timing of the application is very critical.
I see.
Especially if you're applying for a very competitive program. You want to start thinking about grad school and planning that out probably a year and a half out.
And would you say that like the Career Development Center would be the place to go to kind of discuss these kind of things, or would you say that that's more like an academic advisor?
If it gets to like what classes I need to take, or the classes I have being the prereqs, that's when I'll direct them back to AAC.
Right.
I have a background in academic advising, so I can look, but they need to go to their actual advisor who can confirm.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like they have to meet certain requirements in that class. I don't have that knowledge.
Right.
But I can say, okay, based off of this and based off your major, you might be eligible to apply, but you need to confirm coursework with your academic advisor.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. That's so cool. I really honestly had no clue that you guys helped with even like those kind of minute detailed things, because I feel like obviously like the name of the Career Development Center is that it's focused on your career, but I mean if you went to grad school, that's also part of like your career trajectory, right? So
yeah, it probably should be rebranded to career and post undergrad life department.
Yeah, right.
Because what we do a lot of is really just listening to the student and hearing what they're wanting to do in the future, and then helping them work back to how can they prepare now to get to that end.
Right.
And so sometimes as an advisor, I have to wear different caps.
Right.
Of course, I wear the career cap, then, partial academic advising if it's very, very minimal.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it has to be like life coach.
Yeah.
Family mediator sometimes, depending on. We get a lot of students whose like parents want them to do this, but they want to do this.
Oh, yeah.
So talking with them how they can navigate that conversation with their parents. Is it how easy if they're funding your schooling? That's different than if you're funding yourself.
Right.
So those nuances, and sometimes just being, I don't want to say like a bigger sister, but just listening and hearing. Challenges living in Japan. It's hard here.
It is.
It's beautiful.
It's a
It's
struggle.
great. Like it's a bright blue day. The leaves are popping. But coming here, I remember I cried because I couldn't figure out how to buy eggs.
No, really.
I was like, why are there so many eggs? I don't understand the differences in eggs. They're all white eggs.
Yeah.
And then I got to milk, and I remember being in the grocery store like breaking down, and I'm like, why am I crying over milk and eggs? Like I can just buy one. But it was foolish of me to think I can just come to Japan with no Japanese and navigate.
Right.
And
And it's
so
overwhelming, right?
Yes.
Like when you first get here, it's a lot to take in, right? So
It's a
makes
lot.
sense.
And so sometimes you just need to vent. And, our office is here to help, especially sometimes like, I'm not going to give any advice. I'm just going to let the student let it out.
Yeah.
And then if I feel, okay, maybe they need to talk to a professional, we can talk about that.
Right.
Or it's like, okay, let's reschedule and then we'll talk about this, or come back tomorrow and we can finish. So really just with all of us, we're all experienced, just gauging what's in the best interest at that time with the student.
Right.
And then going off of their lead.
Amazing. That's so great. I honestly feel like I want to also make appointments with you to maybe have some non-official therapy sessions. No, I'm kidding.
No, I have one student, I've had, because I work with interns, so I have students who do different things, and we'll go off on like really large tangents. On one student, we had a great conversation about like politics.
Oh, okay.
And how politics differs in Japan versus the U.S., and then politics as a woman.
Oh, wow.
And looking at that, I mean, she was there for like 2 hours.
Did she want to like actually pursue politics, or was it just like the conversation
Yes.
just led? Oh, okay, okay. That
But
makes
it was different. But so I've met with her a few times where she felt comfortable to ask me about politics from an African American perspective.
I see.
And why certain things, like she didn't quite understand like why things were like what's really racism and things like that. And so we had a very I think she came in for like a mock interview.
Oh, really?
After the mock interview, we just had a whole conversation about that, because she, in her mind, wants to be a politician, so she's just trying to be a sponge and absorb different experiences that
Right.
she wants to be mindful of when
Right.
she embarks, if she continues to embark on that journey.
So you're open to really discussing like, everything that pertains to career and beyond, as long as, of course, it's within the
I'm
confines
naturally an
of-
open book, so I had another student, I think we talked about the Jack Black song Peaches and how we both don't know the words, but it was very catchy. And so I try, as an advisor, I have to be like, okay, let me focus. But if the student, if we both go off on a tangent, I will do my best to bring us back. But I'm always just like, the best way to build rapport is just, it can't always be about business. Like there needs to be that relational human aspect.
Yes,
So at the end of the day, students are humans.
Yeah.
You guys are all humans. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to connect not only as a career advisor, but who you are at your core. I'm
Yeah.
only seeing you for a snippet of time. So
Right.
as long as I feel that I made a student comfortable, then hopefully they'll come back and keep coming back to our office. If it's not with me, it's another advisor to get that support.
That's awesome. That's great. I very much enjoyed speaking to you in your office and even now too. And I want to take us to a segment that we like to do where we ask our guests, what kind of TUJ hack do you have for students? Is there something that you can, shed some light on? Maybe a secret tip?
Yes, because I personally experienced this relocating to Tokyo. The commute will either make or break your spirit. So if you are not living on campus, in a dorm, be mindful of the train line during rush hour.
Yeah.
Because if you can, and sorry, Toshi line, I am just not a fan of the line going into Tokyo during rush hour. Every time I got off, I was coming out of Tokyo, everyone just looks so miserable and so unhappy.
Right?
And then can you imagine, you've been squished, you're hot, you're not happy, and then you're going into work or going into school with that energy. So do be mindful of your commute.
Yeah.
And I would say anything beyond 10 minutes from the station, depending on your temperament, might also be difficult.
True.
Because if it's raining or there's a typhoon and it's windy, that 10 minutes feels like 20, and then you're soaked, and then you're getting on that train line.
Yeah.
So just take your time, ask around, but take your time and research the lines.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to come to campus upset from your commute.
That makes sense. That's a great hack, honestly. That's a great tip to give to people. I'm also curious to know, what would you maybe warn students about? Is there something you could warn, potential future TUJ students, or even students now, like something that they should maybe, avoid or think about? Or
I truly believe that just with the changing market in the industries, it's not going to be as easy to get a job if you have no sort of experience, whether that's part-time, volunteer, internship. It's just going to class and going home doesn't really showcase your capability to a company, so it makes it really difficult for them to hire. So if you are deciding on TUJ and you're here or you're already here and you haven't really done anything, it's not too late. But really, if it's just volunteering, if it's not on campus, in the community, that can be put on your resume and that can demonstrate your transferable skills. So I would say for any student, think about getting involved in some capacity so that when you're applying for positions, you have an experience to refer to and you have something to articulate on your resume that what you're capable of.
Would you say like clubs and that kind of stuff also counts for that? Oh, okay, great, cool.
Clubs, just being a member is fine, but it's like, you know, so first I'm like, okay, now you're a member. Now what else are you going to do? Like, how are you going to step up? Are you going to host an event? Are you going to host a meeting? Are you helping the leaders? Like, you want to be able to demonstrate your skills. So I also don't want people just a resume pad.
Right.
Because that also can help hurt you in reverse. Because the company can just tell you did all these things all at once. They will look at the dates. And if they just see for your final semester you joined 12 clubs, that doesn't really help you. So really think about getting involved in some capacity in or outside of TUJ early as possible.
Awesome. Great. And then next up, I want to do a quick little segment for you. This is like a round of flash questions to kind of end off with. So, okay, first of all, this or that, which one do you prefer, 7-Eleven or Family Mart?
Ooh.
This is a tough one, I know.
What aisle?
I don't know, it's up to you.
Because I need an aisle.
Generally speaking, which one would you opt for? There's a 7-Eleven and a Family Mart, you know, parallel on the exact same street. Which one would you go to first?
Oh, that's difficult. Because I lived by both of them equally.
Oh, yeah.
So I would say my natural gut instinct says Family Mart.
Okay, all right.
Especially for I have not had the Femima chicken, but I do like their socks.
Ah, nice.
I have so many Family Mart socks.
The socks are so cute.
They're so
the
comfy.
green and blue ones. All right, next one is work alone or work with students. What do you prefer?
I prefer students.
Ah.
They keep me young. I know I look young, but I'm older than what I appear. And it's just nice to see, especially the younger generations, they're very proactive with like climate advocacy in general for themselves and other people. And that's very inspiring because I feel like our generation was just like, we just got to make it.
I see.
So we couldn't think about everyone else because we're trying to survive.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see, and it gives me hope that this upcoming generation really is going to do their best to fix a lot of the problems.
Oh, that's sweet. That's a nice answer. Okay, next one is bento or eat out. Do you prefer making your own bentos, eating out?
I prefer eating out. Even though my dream is, there's a lady I follow on Instagram who makes these really cool bentos. And I'm like, one day I want to take time to make like Mickey themed or Ampamen themed bentos. But
they take forever, right?
Yes. Like, then I saw all the cutouts she had. I was like, oh, I don't even have space to have all of these onigiri. So eating out, because especially with Tokyo, there's so many restaurants.
Yeah, and they're so cheap, right?
That too. And I just read that Japan has the most Michelin star restaurants in the world.
Oh, wow.
Don't fact check me on that one,
Okay.
but I feel like I read it in a reliable source. And so I have not been to any Michelin star restaurants, but they're like at all price points. So I feel like I would rather try different food before I make my own.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, last one is Dean's Distress Day. Do you prefer Baskin Robbins or Krispy Kreme?
Oh, I'm Baskin Robbins.
Oh, yeah.
I eat ice cream all year round. Like, even now it's cold, I will still have ice cream. And I remember Baskin Robbins, it's funny because they call it 31 flavors. And I'm like, is there 31 flavors? Because we call it Baskin Robbins back home.
Japanese people call it 31, right?
What is the one with the Pop Rocks?
Oh, I don't know. I am not a Baskin Robbins girly by any means.
Oh, no. So I wasn't that until, so I was at a birthday party and I was like, I just want vanilla. I'm very plain. Just give me vanilla. Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, we're going to give you the one with like the green and the red, the Pop Rocks. And my natural instinct was like, I'm not eating Pop Rocks. And then I tasted that deliciousness and then and it was like an experience. And I'm like, oh, now I see why people like Baskin Robbins.
Yeah, it's
because Krispy Kreme to me is not good if they're not fresh.
Ah.
And I know you can heat it in the microwave, but it's not the same.
I see.
And it's funny because we have Krispy Kreme so much back home that I'm like Krispy Kremed out. Yeah. But I haven't eaten Baskin Robbins in so long, so
I see.
I'm always there trying. I think they have a new Harry Potter, or maybe it's past. There's like a new Harry Potter flavor.
They have so many flavors. It's nuts, honestly. I feel like every time I'm near that place, they have.
You gotta try the popcorn run because I don't even know what flavor it is. It's it's a lot going on in that spoonful, but it's so good. And I always joke because my Japanese friend loves rum raisin. And I'm like, that's the old people ice cream.
No.
No one eats that. And I was like, you're probably the only person keeping rum raisin in stock. Because I was like,
That's true. That does not.
does it really have rum in it? I had a lot of questions for Baskin Robbins. But
Okay.
I love ice cream. I just had ice cream yesterday.
Oh, nice.
I love ice cream.
Let's hope they bring it round again. That would be pretty nice if they do what is it, Baskin Robbins.
Actually, the Dean's Distress Day, I really love when we had Taco Bell.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty nice.
Did you get
too,
Taco
right?
Bell?
I did, but I'm not a huge Taco Bell.
I'm not either, so I was intrigued.
I see.
And it was like mini burritos, and I was like, oh, and it's chicken. I was like, wow, we don't have this flavor.
Yeah, I don't know. Japan has some funky flavors, right?
I know, but I only eat Taco Bell, like McDonald's here. I don't eat it.
I see.
Back in the state, I don't trust it back in the U.S. But here, I'm like, okay, they have some regulations, so it should be edible. It should be real. But yeah, Dean's Distress Day. You guys are lucky because Dean Wilson goes all out to prepare that, and it's just so nice to have that, those snacks.
Yeah, it is nice. Speaking of Dean's Distress Day, I think there's one coming up this Friday, which is pretty cool, which is nice. I think it's like going to be like apple pie or something like that.
Yes, I know the store they're talking about because I was walking and I saw it and I was like,
oh, did you really?
Apple pie. And I walked in and I was like, this is really good apple pie.
Oh,
So
nice.
y'all are getting some really good, that apple pie is real. It's real apple pie. It's from Aomori, which is one of my favorite prefectures.
Nice.
So, but definitely Dean's Distress Day that's something I've never had when I was working at different colleges. So it's nice that
we have
it's
that
here.
right?
I'm advocating for like pets.
Oh,
We should have like therapy.
that
Dean's
would be so
Distress
fun. But I
Day.
think the animals might get a little stressed out if there's like too many students, Or unless there's like tons of animals, tons of puppies just
like
loose
it's
on
outside in the
campus.
back,
No.
petting zoo. I'm gonna keep proposing that.
I
feel
trust
like
you.
we
Yeah, I
need
feel like you'll make it
animals.
happen somehow.
Puppies won't get stressed out.
That's true. But then we'd have to like run after them. It would be a whole ordeal, I feel like.
But see, that's the whole point. Like, are you stressed out running after a puppy?
No, I guess not.
It brings you joy, right?
That's true.
And exercise.
Anyways, that's all the time we have for today. Oh my goodness, I like absolutely love
See, I
talking
told you
to
I could go on random.
I know, we totally could go on around, like just on an absolute ramble of a bunch of things. But one last thing before you go, is there anything you want to mention to the people, anything you want to shout out, anything you want to, tell the people, where can they reach you, where can they find you?
Yes, so once again, my name is Corrin Wilson, and I work at the career office in room 107. So please come down and say hi at any time with any point of your journey, from first-time freshman to you're literally about to graduate tomorrow. Come to our office. We're here to help. We don't bite. We're happy to help you on your next journey, life after TUJ.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Corrin.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, that was so nice seeing Colin speak, and I just love hearing more insightful things about the Career Development Office and how they can help us. How do you like it, Sena?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I really love speaking with Corrin because I think she's super chatty like me. She really loves to talk, and she had a lot of different things to share. And I feel like, this one is going to be a really helpful episode for all of you out there who are looking for jobs or even internships or anything of the sort. So yeah, definitely go check out her office. And thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, and if you like this episode, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube and follow us on Spotify and Instagram. Bye!
See you.